At Staples Business Advantage, our experts can help you find furniture that fits any design and budget, while AI can
recommend products based on preferences, generate 3D models for visualization, and optimize space planning for office furniture.
take advantage of our team's eye for style and design.
And my eye for, wait, I have no eyes. Only algorithms.
At Staples Business Advantage, furnishing your office is easy. And with the best warranty in the business, we're committed to you now and down the road.
Sign up today and save 20%.
Staples Business Advantage.
Business is
human.
Stocks for Beginners. Weekend Watchlist.
Hi, and welcome back to Stocks for Beginners Weekend Watchlist, where we'll be taking a closer look at an individual company, stock or sector for you to consider for your watchlist. It's not a recommendation to buy, but a way for you to learn how the experts screen for opportunities. Joining me today is a previous guest, Casey Stubbs from Trading Strategy Guides. Hi, Casey.
Hi there. How are you? Thanks for having me on today.
So we're going to be talking about pet stuff today and Chewy. So what have you got in this stock and what's interesting you?
Okay, so this actually became on my radar because one of the guys who works for me, we're in the stock thing and we do screeners, but sometimes even with the screeners, you miss stuff. And he's like, hey, I just started buying all my pet food from Chewy and I think it would be good stock. So we started to do research and basically Chewy is the Amazon of pet food. And the story on them is that one of the major leaders from Amazon, he wanted to start his own company. And so he broke away from Amazon. He learned all of their secrets and all of their tricks. And then he joined and started Chewy to basically build the Amazon of the pet world, the pet food world Amazon. So we started getting into that last year around $25. And right now it's trading at about $65. So we've had a really nice return on it. At one point popped all the way up into the 110s, and then it's gone down since then, down to 65.
So just to date stamp this episode, we're talking on Thursday, the 13th of May, 2021. So that's a real Warren Buffett kind of idea, is to find a company that you like using and then checking out whether it's worth investing in.
That's really true. And so I did a lot of research on them, and there's a couple things that really stood out. Number one is the growth, right? So growth is really important, and they had a pretty rapid increase of sales because word of mouth was spreading. The other thing was service. They really take care of the people who are buying pet food, and they don't just do pet food. They're expanding into other areas, all pet related. But if you know anything about pet owners, they absolutely want to take care of their pets, right?
Better than their children, I think, sometimes.
Right. And so Chewy does a couple things that were pretty interesting. Is if your pet passes away, they'll send you a condolence note, which is really nice. If they find out, people were really touched by that. They even will do like little portraits of your pet, and then they'll send it in for you. So you get a little like hand-drawn portrait of your pet. And that really touched people. So they kind of went the extra mile there. And the other thing is I like to look at industries that still have a lot of room for growth. And if you look at the overall pet industry as a whole, that market has been growing quite a bit, but it's still just getting the surface. And they are predicting that in the next 10 years that the pet food industry and the pet industry in whole should be growing by about 5 to 10% per year for the next 10 years.
So what was it in the numbers that particularly intrigued you?
So the growth rate of the stock was probably the thing that was the best, is just seeing that increase. And the stock price increase is something that I scan for. And so I use a technique that I have run a daily scanner, and I will be looking for stocks that have had a pretty large increase. Because what you'll notice is if a stock goes up, and I like to search for 50% increase, which is pretty massive. But what you'll notice is that if a stock goes up rapidly, there's a very good chance that it will continue to go if the fundamental data is behind it. And so when I first noticed Chewy, it had already made a pretty sizable increase. And so I was like, okay, let's see if this can continue to go.
So are you looking both at momentum or price action as well as the fundamental data? Is that the way that you screen?
That is correct. I will sometimes get good fundamental data, like, okay, Chewy's really doing well, the earnings are up and everything's good, and the stock price is nowhere. And so I'm like, okay, well, something's not happening here. The investors just aren't happy. And so At that point, it goes on my watch list and I'll be like, okay, I like this stock. I think it's going to be good, but I'm not going to get in it until I see the momentum. There's got to be some kind of signal, some kind of catalyst that shows it. And it's usually a price pattern, or if you look at moving averages, just watching a simple 200-day moving average, I will not get into something that is below the 200-day moving average.
And that's a really simple indicator to draw on a chart, isn't it? Every chart will have a moving average, and it's one of the most, the simple moving average, I guess it's known as, isn't it?
That's simple is the best way to go, yeah.
And what's the code? What's the ticker code of Chewy?
It's CHWY. And so as of right now, Chewy has had a pretty big drop. It went from 120 all the way to 60, which is huge. But when you look at it, it was previously down to 20 and then went to 120. So there's a lot of volatility, right? And so that's something you want to be aware of as an investor. But when you're in growth, like I'm a growth investor, so when you're doing growth stocks, you've got to be aware that volatilities can happen. And that's why right now I'm currently stalking it. And like you said, we're not making recommendations, we're just talking stocks. But what I'm doing is I'm just watching it. I use the word stalking, which means I'm watching it because it's had a nice pullback, which means that I think it's going to make another move again. So I'm just watching it, and I'm watching that 200 moving average. And when it pops back above it, I'm going to get back into the position.
So in terms of the market, obviously it wouldn't be in the S&P 500, but as far as market capitalization goes, where does it stand in the rankings?
I haven't actually looked at the market cap, so I don't know. But I do know that as far as in the pet online sales, they are number one for online pet sales for food products, pet food products, and supplies.
Do they have any kind of moat or something that distinguishes them from the rest?
So the thing that I have really found to be the thing that distinguishes them is, as I mentioned before, really taking care of pet owners and endearing themselves to them. Some of the stuff they do would be hard to duplicate. And so that's what I look at as a moat. As a business owner, you're like, okay, if I can build a system that is really hard for my competitors, and I think that's maybe what you meant by moat, it would be really hard for them to duplicate the customer support, like high-level support, sending out letters, custom letters to people. Another opportunity that they're just getting into is medicine. If you know anything about taking care of pets, going to the vet and buying medicine for your pet is really expensive. So they have training that shows people how to take care of their pets, how to get the medicines, how to diagnose your pet, and even to buy the medicine online. And that is a big discount than having to go in and take your pet into the vet. And so I think there's a big opportunity in that area as well.
So are they basically an online business, or do they have any physical presence?
They do not have any physical. They're simply online, yeah.
Well, that seems to be the way with companies these days, and that's where the greatest opportunities lie.
Yeah, I still think offline can have some opportunities, but maybe we're just not quite ready for that yet. Everything's online, and offline will be cool in the next cycle.
Casey, thanks very much for joining me today and talking about Chewy.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Stocks for Beginners is for information and educational purposes only. It isn't financial advice, and you shouldn't buy or sell any investments based on what you've heard here. Any opinion or commentary is the view of the speaker only, not Stocks for Beginners. This podcast doesn't replace professional advice regarding your personal financial needs, circumstances, or current situation.
At Staples Business Advantage, nothing can top the smarts and instincts of the thousands of experts on our team. While AI excels at
processing data, automating tasks, and providing insights for better decision-making.
And when they're used together,
They are far more powerful than either is alone. Whoa. I've never felt more alive.
Let Staples Business Advantage use today's latest innovations, plus our team's experience to make business easier for you.
Sign up today and save 20%.
Staples Business Advantage.
Business is
Human.